Social Work 2313, Social Work Practice 1, Chapter 2, Professionalism, from Cournoyer. LaShawn Bold, Associate Professor in Practice, School of Social Work. This week we're going to talk about professionalism. And think about what you normally think about when you think about a professional. Okay? Let's go to this website here. This website has a few areas to look at when you think about professionalism. This is from the tipsforsuccess.org. It says, don't do anything as though you were an amateur. Anything you do, do it as a professional to professional standards. There's a few more quotes here. I'm going to get down here to what the specifics are. A professional learns every aspect of the job. An amateur skips the learning process whenever possible. A professional clearly discovers what is needed and wanted, and an amateur assumes what others need and want. An amateur is sloppy in appearance. A professional looks and speaks and dresses like a professional. A professional keeps his work or her work area clean and orderly, and an amateur has a messy, confused, or dirty work area. A professional is focused and clear-headed. An amateur is confused and distracted. A professional does not let mistakes slide by. An amateur ignores or tries to hide their mistakes. A professional jumps into difficult assignments, and an amateur tries to get out of difficult work. A professional completes projects as soon as possible. An amateur is surrounded by unfinished work piled up on unfinished work. A professional remains level-headed and optimistic, whereas an amateur gets upset and assumes the worst. A professional handles money and accounts very carefully, and an amateur is sloppy with money or accounts. A professional faces up to other people's upsets and problems, and an amateur avoids others' problems. A professional uses higher emotional tones. This one's very interesting. Like enthusiasm, cheerfulness, interest, contentment. An amateur uses lower emotional tones like anger, hostility, resentment, fear, or plays the victim. A professional persists when the objective is achieved. An amateur gives up at the first opportunity. Persists until the objective is achieved. A professional produces more than expected. An amateur produces just enough to get by. A professional produces a high-quality product or service, and an amateur produces a medium to low-quality product or service. A professional earns high pay, and an amateur earns low pay and feels it's unfair. A professional has a promising future, and an amateur has an uncertain future. The very first step to making yourself a professional is to decide that you are a professional. So I want to encourage you to look through this list and determine your level of professionalism. So a couple of characteristics of professionalism in social work are integrity, professional knowledge, self-efficacy, self-understanding, and self-control with social support. So I want to look at this framework that's set out here for professionalism. A framework is a way of looking at something, kind of the big picture of something, or here is what the material is about, okay? So if you look at professionalism, you'll see that around the professionalism, all these areas are expected, okay? Human rights, diversity, social well-being, respect, and adherence to social work values and ethics, integrity, critical thinking. So all of the things that we mentioned in the last chapter are here in this framework for professionalism. And in social work, it's more than just customer service. So it's more than, you go to a restaurant or the grocery store and you expect them to treat you kindly. Being a professional means going above and beyond. Being a professional means just, that upper level where you're making a conscious effort to engage with the person in a professional manner and to present as a professional. With social worker, you add professional integrity, knowledge, self-efficacy, understanding, self-control, and social support. And all of those things lead to a satisfied, successful client, which then leads to a satisfied, successful society. Just going to leave that up there for a minute so you can kind of absorb that for a second. Social workers are expected to exhibit professionalism morally, personally, ethically, and legally. It's an important position to be a social worker in society. We have to be upstanding in many different ways. With integrity, we have to tell the truth and be honest with your clients and yourself. And think about that. Do you always tell the truth? Are there times where you kind of fudge to make something better or to make yourself look better? Where might be some areas as I'm going through these things that you might need to step it up a little? So self-efficacy and knowledge means, are you competent in the areas that are expected from the Council of Social Work Education? And efficacy is knowing that you are competent and having confidence in your ability to execute specific skills. If you don't have competence in your abilities and your skills, then you need to receive the training to be able to do the things that you want to do. For example, if I am someone who says I'm going to have my own private practice, well, then I need to make sure that I'm competent in those areas. Or that if I say I'm going to serve children, then I'm going to need to be confident that I have the skills. And the only way I can have those skills is by training and study and gaining the knowledge that I need to do to get there. So I can have that confidence. A self-understanding and self-control. A lifelong learning process that involves a deliberate, intentional use of your knowledge and skills. Social workers have to know who we are, and we have to know where we come from. We need to be aware of our own attitudes and behaviors and how those behaviors influence and impact the other people around us. We have to understand that our thoughts lead to actions, and our actions may affect lots of other people around us. We need to understand the relationship between our thoughts and our feelings and our actions, and how that has an impact on people around us. We must understand that our thoughts lead to actions, and our actions affect many, many others. We must continuously be open to new ideas and new ways of doing things and approaching new situations. We have to be able to grow. We have to be able to and willing to seek training and additional knowledge as we go along. We need to be able to manage our emotions. We must be keenly aware of our own fears, biases, anxieties, and personal behaviors. The text talks about being aware of such things as using food or drugs or anything else to excess. Be aware that you do that. Understand that you do that and see the effects that has on your life and your ability to interact with other people. Procrastination. Procrastination is a very selfish thing because it does not take into consideration other people's feelings about what's happening. And most of the time in a workplace, your actions affect all of the other people around you. So somebody else may be waiting for something that you're producing, and your procrastination is causing a ripple effect all the way through the system. So all of these things, your actions affect everybody around you. Any of these things could be an obstacle to your success and the success of your clients. As you address some of these issues as social workers, you may need to get counseling. And that's okay. It is okay for social workers to seek counseling. And without having an understanding of yourself and self-control, you might actually do more harm than good to the people around you. So you have to be able to say, I was wrong. Okay? And keep yourself in check that way. I have a colleague that calls it self-regulation. Was I eating good today? Did I take care of myself? Did I get a good night's sleep? Am I ready for this moment or this interaction with this client or coworker? And if I'm not, I need to step back. I have another colleague that calls it my other colleague talks about a word called halt before you do something. If you are feeling on edge or concerned or worried and you're about to go into a situation where there could be conflict, you need to halt and say, am I hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? And if you're any of those things, they will definitely affect your interaction with someone else. Remember that, halt, hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. So where do you start? How can I be more self-aware? So in order to be more self-aware, you have to look at your own picture. You have to look at where you've been in your personal history, your personal background, your work history, your own social history, to see where you've been and where you're going. Because that's the only way you're going to be able to relate and say, maybe I do this because of this back here. And again, to process these things, you may need some counseling yourself. So don't be afraid to reach out for help or to reach out for self-help, or there's so many resources out there for us for self-awareness. It's really important to recognize when you need it. Particularly if you've already been running into some conflict with people, conflict with others, and you're not able to get along, so to speak, or you have a lot of feedback at work or people you love that are saying, you are not easy to get along with. You need to take a good hard look at that and see what's going on with you. Otherwise, it's going to transfer into your career as a social worker. So let's look at a couple of things. We're going to go back and look at a genogram. And this is an assignment that's actually due in the next week or the next module. So we'll go ahead and get started and look at it here, and then it'll be due in the module that is indicated online. So we're going to look at the genogram, the roles in the family, the eco map, and your personal timeline. So when we look at the genogram, if you look at this one, this is an example of the Chase family. So if you look very closely up at the top over here, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor or not, or my arrow. But this is Richard's father is reported to be an alcoholic, physically abusive to his wife and children. The first thing that you need to do with a genogram is figure out who's who. All right. So the squares indicate males, and the round circles indicate females. And so, and a crossing line or a connecting line, means that there's a relationship between those two people. So we can see that these two people, and our client's name is Richard, and I guess we're looking at Lynn. Okay. Perhaps Richard's family here. Okay. So you see, this is Richard's parents, And there's his father is the square and his mother is the circle. And they divorced, and that line in between indicates divorce. All right. So Richard and his parents, he obviously has a sibling. No, he is, I'm sorry. So he has two sisters, and there he is at 35. So the 35 is our client, Richard. All right. And so Richard comes down, and he married Lynn when he was 20. And then he also had a marriage before Lynn that lasted for 2 years that ended in divorce. Okay. The one line up there with Richard's parents is separation, and the two lines is divorce. But there's typically you'll see a graph, or a code that you can use to refer to on your genogram. But this is what one looks like overall. So what you're going to do is you're going to build your own genogram, okay? So here are some instructions. As part of an effort to enhance your self-understanding, prepare a genogram of 3 generations of your family. Use paper and pencil or word processing or drawing software to create the genogram. So several processing packages allow for creation of squares, circles, triangles, and lines. You can also use one of the family genograms programs if you like, but you're going to create your own genogram for this assignment. But there's what one looks like. And it's a picture of everyone in the family. Now in this one, they also have some descriptors there. And that'd probably be good for you to add some descriptors of the relationships and what the issues are. And a genogram, when we're with clients, it helps us see all of the aspects of the client's relationship. And sometimes it can help the client understand their relationships better and say, okay, I have all these people in my family are this or that. You know, they can see in a picture format what's going on. Okay, so you're going to build your own genogram. Once you've completed the genogram, I want you to think about your role in the family. Were you a scapegoat, a caretaker, a rescuer, a peacemaker? Did you parent your parents, rebel? How were you treated as a consequence of those roles? And what roles do you play today? Are they similar to the roles you played as a child? The reason I'm asking you to look at your roles that you play, it kind of helps you define a little bit about what was going on with the situation. In no way is this intended to be an initial therapy session for you. And so if you do identify some areas that you think are difficult to think about and are upsetting to you, then I want to encourage you to reach out to seek help for those situations in moving through your career here as a social worker. So when you're identifying roles, what I would like for you to do is just think about your relationships, in the family and what those relationships were like. Were there stressful ones, and you can put a little squiggly line there, or you still have those roles today, those kinds of more practical areas. So then you're also going to have an eco map that you complete. And this is the eco map. This involves all the other systems around you. So you'll see that Richard and his wife and their child Robert and their dog is in part of their eco map. So this is all of the things that they have going on in their lives that are outside of their immediate family. These things are very, very important to identifying what is having the most influence on you and your family and your current situation. And if you need assistance for the eco map, the instructions indicate that on pages, I think 313 in your course text, I believe it's chapter 9, that can help you further understand the eco map. And lastly, I want you to complete a timeline of the critical events that happen in your life. And you can ignore the last phrase about being ready to explore on Thursday. That's for an in-person, face-to-face class. But a critical events timeline helps you see, oh, here are the things. So you start from at birth and you move all the way through death. You might have completed this also in our 2302 lifespan class. It's just another thing to consider when you do that. So be sure and look for the assignment next week on the genogram. And hopefully you will have already explored some of that before you get there. That is all that I have for this particular discussion, and I hope that you were able to benefit from the information.